Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Listen and grow as Del questions the status quo, encourages you to think differently, and empowers you to make a better life. Get ready as Del challenges core beliefs, seeks the truth, and reveals the roadmap to the lifestyle you really want. And now your host, multi-millionaire, national award-winning investor, CEO and founder of Lifestyles Unlimited, Del Walmsley.
Welcome to Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins. I'm your host, Del Walmsley, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. Here with me today on Tell Del Tuesday is Cliff and Kathy Caldwell out of Corpus Christi, who currently own around 788 units, is what it says here on the piece of paper. Multiple different properties that they're owners in. Have also owned other properties and gone through them like most investors. They're do what we call the natural progression of a real estate investor. To get us started here today, this couple is sharing their story with us from two different locations. I'm glad you guys could make it. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Dale. How are you?
Great. Glad to have you guys with us. Really appreciate you, knowing that you're in a very busy situation in your family life right now. But we'll get back to that in a moment. Let's talk first of all about why you guys both started looking into something and, that boat rental thing or, what was it that made you decide that you wanted something different? A good corp, by the way, I just got to get this out there. Gas consultant for Cliff, Kathy, president of Contractors Association. Big jobs, good jobs, career jobs. So something happened. What happened?
I think Dale, Kathy, and I both have always had kind of the entrepreneurial spirit, wanted to do something, just didn't know what. When we met each other, we talked a lot and knew that we wanted to do something where we could earn a living together and work together. So we were out looking for different things that we could do, and we had stumbled across this franchise business, and we were seriously looking into it. And that's kind of the beginning, and that's before we had any knowledge of real estate, before we knew anything about Lifestyles Unlimited. We didn't learn about Lifestyles Unlimited until I went to a company meeting with my W-2 employer at the time, and one of the other members in LU also worked at the same company I did. He shared with me some golden nuggets from the map, and I was hooked.
This stimulated you to look into it further. But little birdie tells me that Kathy was quite the pessimist to this whole thing.
So I started as soon as Sean had shared with me about LU. Sean and I had previously talked about rental homes and real estate investing. He told me to start listening to the podcast. So, Dale, I have listened to your radio show I was listening to it last night, but I have listened to you on airplanes, going international, driving cars for the last 5 years. But in the beginning, I was trying to get Kathy to, hey, why don't you listen to some of these podcasts? It's about real estate investing. And she was not really interested, to say the least. Kathy, do you have any comments on that?
Del, I can remember just driving through town, probably going to grab dinner or something, and he says, hey, I just want you to listen to this real quick. And you came on. Turn that off. I don't want to listen to it. I'm not into this Ponzi scheme thing. I'm so embarrassed. I really wanted nothing to do with it.
So Kathy, from looking in from the outside and now knowing what we are, 35 years existence, 50,000 clients, retired thousands and thousands of people, made hundreds of millions of dollars with people, for people, by people. Looking in from the outside, what do you see? I mean, I know no one can see exactly what we are. I mean, it's even once you join, it takes a while to really absorb how big we are. But what did you see? Or what did you think you saw? Put it that way. And what were the worst fears that you could have?
A recommendation made is, refinance the house and sell the new boat we just bought and, reevaluate your retirement accounts. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm just not doing all of those safety net things for me. Like, I worked real hard to get, to accumulate all that. And, well, 5 years into this now, we've refinanced the house twice. First thing we did was sell the brand new boat. And, and our 401ks we no longer have, but with no regrets. No regrets. You talk about how you retire people. Cliff and I are both retired from our W-2 jobs. I mean, we still have full-time jobs, working our real estate investments as leads, but it's just not the same thing as having to report to an office, report to your boss, and supervisors. It's just not the same thing. We're real estate retired, and we love every minute of it.
So get out your life scale. You can just see this thing sit in front of you, and you're going to weigh out things in your life. Which has more value, your life or a boat?
Oh, definitely our life. Like we bought the boat, Del. We spent a lot of crazy money. We don't even own. It's probably more than my first house that we purchased. My ex-husband and I had purchased. It was cost more than that, but we sold it. We were able to reinvest that money into an 8-unit IRO that Cliff and I purchased together, and we've never looked back. We bought a boat. We still have a boat. There's still a boat in the backyard, but it's not that boat. But it does everything we need it to do. It gets us out there. We go fishing. We enjoy our time. And don't even get me started with time. We have time that we never had before. Now, it's just been it's life-changing, absolutely, without a doubt.
So I don't want to sound like Dave Ramsey at all, not even close. I believe you can afford anything you want if you just work on the assets and the income first, and then come back and buy it later. So I think if you build your investments up large enough, you can afford to have that boat. Obviously, there's other things in life, including little life challenges that you're going through right now, that get in the way of that. Even you go, I don't even know if I want the boat sometimes. It's like I tried to buy a yacht, and so I went with all my friends that had yachts, and I went for weekend after weekend after weekend with different people. And every weekend I got done going, God, I'm glad I don't own this boat. Because you have to clean it, you have to store it, you have to gas it up, you have to bring beer onto it, And I thought, man, that's right. An awful lot of stuff to do to go out on a boat for a few hours. And I started wondering, and I talked to the guy at the wherever you dock your boat, whatever those things are called. And the guy goes, yeah, you can rent one of these. I go, you can rent one?
Yep.
We do rent the big boats, Del. We rent the big boats. We go to Cabo. We rent a big boat. We do offshore fishing. But our boat in the backyard, the bay boat, it's not that big, and it is hanging in the boat lift in the backyard, so it's a lot easier to load and leave. You don't have to, put it in a marina or anything like that. So we're very fortunate where we live in Corpus. We're right on the water.
Yeah, I have nothing against boats. And I have nothing against. I tried that with motorhomes too, and I couldn't buy a motorhome either. Went weeks with friends everywhere, and I go, man, this is really great. I'm just glad I don't own one. I even have a house that has a motorhome garage, believe it or not, and I don't own a motorhome. So, all right, let's move. Let's move on here, because that's just something I thought that was interesting, because it's very common for one spouse to get excited about hearing about this, and the other spouse go just stick their nose up in the air and go, no, wait, And I want to find out from each of you, if I could, what each of your takeaways were. What were the aha moments?
For me, when y'all talk about the school system, the education system, they want you to go to school, get good grades, graduate high school, go to college, get your degree, get a job, work hard, save money in your 401k, and then, when you get ready to retire, you're gonna hope you die before you run out of money. That's exactly what we were doing. That's not how I wanted to do this life. I wanted to have more freedom. I didn't want to have to worry about running out of money.
So what in what we were doing touched that bone for you? I mean,
it just felt more like something I could do. To me, the stock market's complicated. My grandfather was in IBM and Apple, way back in the day. Those just were not options for us, and this just made sense. It sounded like something that we could learn, that we could do. The support system with Lifestyles is there. to help, through the whole process, and it just really, I was ready.
Cliff, you were listening to us on the radio and on podcast before you came in. You were a little more positive about approaching this, dragging your wife in. What epiphanies did you come away with and go, boy, I didn't even think about it? In other words, you'd already came in, you were excited, but now what did you learn that was just blew you away that you didn't know?
Well, for one, I didn't know regular people could own apartment communities. So when we discovered that was a light bulb moment. When I discovered that we could do a cash out refinance once you've increased the performance of a property, that was the golden ticket right there. And then we could rinse and repeat that money and buy another deal or invest passively with other people. That was the hugest moment. I thought, that's for me.
It's almost like it's magic money, isn't it?
It's like you just create money out of thin air.
It just doesn't. I remember seeing the faces on people when I would show them that in the 2 days. It's just their face would light up and they go, "You can't do that, really? What?"
Yeah.
So
yeah, but you have to take that money and reinvest it into more assets that continue to cash flow and continue to have those events. You just can't refinance and go buy that boat again. You need to keep reinvesting that capital until you build up enough to where you have plenty of cash flow. So that right there in itself was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we can do this. I can't believe, Dale, everybody is not doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in life, there's a lot of things out there that a lot of people should do, right? We should all be in good health. We should all have good nutritional habits, but we don't. So it's just not something that they teach in school. So the average person doesn't know. And when you came out of this 2 day, she's got her nails in your arm by lunch of the first day, Cliff, telling you that, hey, we got to do this stuff. When you walked away, what was your idea of the first stuff you were going to do? How did you see your progression as a real estate investor happening? And then did it actually happen the way you saw it?
It did, Dale. The first thing we needed to do was get plugged into the education, and that's exactly what we did. When we wrote the check to Lifestyles Unlimited and we got plugged into all the systems and set up on the portals, boom, we started doing all the education. We started with our passive certificate. Then we did our core, then we did our lead training. We just one right after the other. Once we got through the education, boom, we found a passive deal to go into. And it was scary at first to go down to the bank and wire the money. Now it's like super fun every time I get to do that. And I say, what's this money for? Well, I'm buying an apartment community. And they're like, oh, wow. So it kind of went down like I thought or like I was hoping. And if we just stay plugged into the map, stay within the guardrails of the map, I believe our investing will be absolutely successful. And it has been. The thing about the bank, Clip, I got to tell a story. I hate to take time away from your story, but this is just so funny. I had to close on a deal the other day, or I had to wire some money and get some documents signed. I walked into the bank, and they know who I am, quite obviously, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a long line of people waiting to get in, and they had to do this sign-in thing online and wait to get themselves a banker. And I walked in, and I said, hey, man, I need to get this thing done. Guy popped up out of his office, came and grabbed me, took me right in to do it. And some dude out in the waiting room, rightfully so, started screaming and yelling at the bankers. Why did he get to go in there, blah, 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 blah. And, I told the guy, I'm sorry, man, I shouldn't have done that. But it is interesting when you get to go to these bank things. It really becomes a lot more fun signing away your money or sending your money away and signing documents and all that stuff than it is the first time. Do you remember your first closing of when you closed on a deal yourself as an IRO? I do. I remember it very well.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about that. We'll be right back with Cliff, Kathy Caldwell, and the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
Teaching you with with a roadmap to creating the lifestyle you really want. Keep listening. The Del Walmsley Radio Show returns in moments.
Need more unconventional wisdom that will set you free? Subscribe to Lifestyles Unlimited on YouTube and binge content that will actually help you get where you want to go in life from people who are already there. With over 50,000 members and 32 years of proven success, there's so much more we want to share with you than what we have time for on the radio. On YouTube, we go beyond our shows and feature our best content from podcasts, interviews, expo, Masters Tour, fireside chats, special events, and more.
You're hearing the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Want more life-changing knowledge? Access our podcast and listen on demand at lifestylesunlimited.com under the radio tab. Now your host, Del Walmsley.
Welcome back to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. With me here today on Tell Del Tuesday is Cliff and Kathy Caldwell out of Corpus Christi. And we're discussing what their thoughts were as far as the plan they had when they came out of the 2-day, to compare that to how they made the progression as a real estate investor. How did you guys see that you were going to start, and what was your plan?
Dale, I believe we knew we ultimately wanted to be leads/IROs. So after we took the education, we did a few passive deals, and then we wanted to be leads because that's kind of the direction we needed to go. But we plugged into the mentorship with LU, and our mentor said, I don't want you to be a lead right now. I want you to go out and find a small IRO, independent rental owner, and buy it all by yourself and learn the nuts and bolts of the business. So I said, well, okay, that's what we'll do. That's what they recommend. That's what we're going to do. So we'd found a small, rundown 8-unit apartment complex community, and I was able to run the numbers, meet with the mentor. He said, this is a good deal. You should buy it. I'm like, well, okay. So we did it. So I remember being at closing, and we had tremendous help all the way up to that point. We got to closing. They handed us a pile of keys, and Kathy and I looked at each other like, oh, my gosh, what do we do now? But guess what? We have operations consultants from that point on. And I think we were on the phone with Teresa 1 or 2 times a day, every day for quite a while, learning how to run our small 8-unit apartment community. And that's kind of how it started. Once we got through the renovations and lease up, or replacing the residents in it, then we were ready to move into a lead role. And so that's kind of how it happened. And now we've done multiple lead roles since the 8-unit.
Kathy, were you surprised that not only did we have a multimillionaire mentor to guide you this way as to what to do to make your first move, but that we actually had consultants, operational consultants that you could use on a daily basis?
To be honest, Del, that's the most important part to me. Cliff handles buying and selling, and when we get those keys, he actually hands them to me, and I take over from there. So, like, Teresa's my best friend. I really did have her on speed dial. I really did call her all the time. It was a small little property, but it was a rough little property with some of the residents that were in it. But boy, she got us through. I mean, through every single thing that happened, she got us through it. I still talk to Teresa regularly, but it's not like it used to be. We've learned a lot. We've come a long way. Like Cliff said, we've had several lease deals already, and so I don't have to call her as often as I used to. But boy, having her there and available to help me was we couldn't have done it without the consultants, without a doubt.
Yeah. We needed to learn the nuts and bolts of the business on our own ourselves. Now, Dale, I know where the keys are at, but I don't know which door they go to, and I have somebody else open the door for me.
Yeah.
At least you know where the keys are at.
Yeah.
We do know where the keys are at. That's it. We don't know the key code, nothing.
Yeah, I don't know what key goes to what. They have a secret code. I don't know.
Yeah, I get you. It's important that they have that code so people can't figure out which keys go where.
Absolutely.
So I look at this stuff as always interesting is, education in any form. It's funny how you struggle and you think that it looks difficult, and then you get a question answered. Okay, you got that. But in no time at all, it's like you're building muscles. I mean, you do your one sit-up and it kills you for a week. You're sore. You come back and do 10 the next time. You go, well, I wonder how I went from 1 to 10. And then a month later, you're doing 100 of them. Do you feel that way in this business that just now it just all comes second nature 99% of the time?
Absolutely. 99% of the time it's second nature. We went through, growing pains in the beginning. We had to learn a lot of information and learn the business. Now it's relatively easy. We still learn a lot all the time, but we kind of have a grasp on what to do now.
So, Kathy, you took that money out of your house. You took some money out of your 401k. What kind of returns did you guys get? You like 1 or 2 or 4% on these 2 apartments you bought? This 8-unit and 36-unit. What are we looking at here? 4 or 5% return? What did you guys earn?
On the 8-unit, Dell, when it was all said and done, in 2 years, we did 168% return.
Is that okay, Kathy?
I mean, it's fantastic. It's really gotten us to. It's really allowed us to grow more.
So, guys, you got to think about this out there in the world of radio. You've got, let's take any number, $100,000. You make 168% return means you have $268,000 now. You have the 100 you started with. You made 168% return. That means you have $268,000. You've almost, it's 168% gain. So, I was going to try to reinvent numbers there.
I don't want to interrupt you, Dale, but I have to tell you, where else can you get returns like that in 2 years? Like, there's no place else for us to turn 150, so fast. It's been amazing.
Other than working in the government, getting insider trading tips, I don't know.
We don't believe in stealing money.
No, I don't either. And that's why I went to real estate.
Right.
Yeah.
So the second deal you did, the 36 unit, how was that? In fact, did you do that one after the 8 unit? Was that the next deal?
We did. We did it once we had the 8 unit stabilized. We were ready to take on a lead deal, and we found an opportunity. We took the opportunity. We did our first lead syndication on that property, and in 18 months, we returned just probably, I think it was 111, 112% to our investors when we sold it.
During COVID, Del, we bought it during COVID, and we were able to buy it and sell it in 18 months with 112% return to the investors.
And everybody else was going out of business during this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Really is. You look at this thing, and I as somebody who's been in some passive deals, I'm normally an IRO investor myself, or I'm a lead when circumstances dictate, like the market's falling apart, nobody else can get loans, but I can go buy stuff 50 cents on the dollar. That's when I become a lead. But in this situation, as a passive investor, I've found that the beginners and these small deals are always the best deals to get into. And the reason is because a beginner is willing to listen to the consultant and do what they say. Number two, they want out of this small deal so they can grow. So they want to turn that thing around very quickly. And it's very easy to get 8 new tenants and turn the thing around and get your gain and get out. And it's a lot harder to turn around 300 units. Tell somebody, well, we're going to turn this thing around. Go, yeah, sure. You've never done a 300 unit yet, have you? So it's a whole different. So I really like those small deals. Let's talk about where you're at right now. You're on up. You went from that deal, right, which is 36. You bought another 33 and then another 120. What did you do here?
So the first 2 that we spoke about, both have sold. We bought a 33-unit community of townhomes last year in February. We renovated, and we've done a lot of work to that property. and we've turned over all the leases. We've raised rents on that property anywhere from 50 to 75% across the board. It was a mom and pop run property, a lot of mom and pop deferred maintenance that we had to fix, and they like to keep it at 100%, so they kept the rents super cheap. And so when we took over, we saw that going into it. We took over and we immediately started repositioning leases. So that one is, we're looking at possibly refinancing it later this year. And then our 120 unit we also bought last year. We've done a lot of renovating on that property.
Anybody else, family members or anybody?
Actually, Kathy's mom and dad are PIG members. So that's a plus, and they're in numerous deals throughout the LU. They're in some of our deals. They're in with other leads within Lifestyles, and they've done fantastic so far.
That's great. By the way, for people listening, PIG stands for Preferred Investor Group, and I did not make that up to stand for PIG. Somebody came up, the first time I ever signed someone up as a preferred investor, which meant you got to work with me personally. This girl comes running out of the room, goes, I'm a pig. It blew my mind. I said, well, I didn't pick that acronym very well, did I? But then it kind of worked out because pigs won it all, right?
Right. And now we have piglets, too.
Kathy, you're currently visiting your son in the hospital, I believe, or somewhere.
Yes.
What does it mean to you to be able to be there by your son while he's going through medical condition?
So, okay, now I'm going to cry. In January, he was diagnosed with leukemia. He's 20 years old. And talk about a showstopper for us, right? So we checked into the hospital January 9th. He was diagnosed January 12th. And we didn't come home from the hospital until February 14th. And it's just been a long ride. But he is doing very well. And, we're all just grateful that I have the freedom to be able to be here with him and support him and help him through all of this, while Cliff is at home with my other son, taking care of him. And we do have an older son, too. And he's been able to hold the fort down while I have to kind of put things on hold and come up here and take care of him regularly. And it's been great to have the ability to not have to worry about answering to my supervisors and my bosses in the past, and still be able to. I can do so much here. That month that I was in the hospital, Cliff brought my computer, he brought my printer, he brought my scanner, he brought paper, check paper. I was mailing invoices, mailing payments for invoices from the hospital, and still being able to get the job done, from here. And I just, to have the freedom to be able to do all of this, it's just been unbelievable.
Things happen for a reason in life, and I meet people all the time. And I was in a meeting the other day with a bunch of people that weren't Lifestyles members, and they seem to believe, in general, the population out there in America believes that stuff just happens to you, and that you're stuck, and that's it. No response to it. And Viktor Frankl, who was in a Nazi concentration camp, said, you can take away my physical freedom, you can't take away my mental freedom. And in other words, life gives you stuff. And if you've arranged your life in such a way that you can deal with that stuff, then you can deal with it. And if you can't, if you're broke, you wouldn't be there. If you had to work 12 hours a day, you wouldn't be there. And you did the right things, and so you're there. And God bless you. Guys, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it, and sharing your personal stuff and all your real estate stuff. But for the rest of you out there, remember this, Cliff and Kathy, it's not just the money. It's the lifestyle. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow.
The information and opinions you hear on the Del Walmsley radio show are those of the host, Del Walmsley, his guests, and his callers. The Del Walmsley show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Del Walmsley show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.